I thank the witnesses for being here. The question I'm going to ask Representative Nelson first is, it's the label of the hearing, how many wolves is enough, and more to the point, who should decide? And the issue at the ESA level would be the number of wolves necessary to keep wolves going as a species. That'd be a much smaller number than you have here. So you have a much larger 5,000 wolves. Who's supposed to make the decision about who should have how many wolves? I mean, what is that standard that we're looking for? Now, I heard you on the farm say you're seeking some sort of a balance, that you don't see your deer population plummet, obviously too many wolves. But how one adjusts it and who makes that decision is of great interest to me, to all of us. Is it your thought that this is one of those things where you get around the table with a bunch of folks that think otherwise and sort it out that way, or is there some better way of establishing that standard?
Well, thank you for the question, Mr. Chair. And I think really the best way to do when you to make decisions is looking at science. And as Congresswoman Hageman said, you know, in the plan, there really appears to be a lack of science on our decision making, and that's concerning. You know, I am not a problem. I'm a fan of having diversity in our wildlife. It is important, and yet we need to have science. We need to follow the science. How many times have we heard that in the last 4 years, to follow the science? And yet, unfortunately, we are not seeing that in our plans that are coming forward. We're seeing species recover, but yet we're not following the science. To get it started, we are, but then we're not following through.
Dr. Roberts, once you get to 5,000 wolves, how in the world do you reduce the number? I know there's 60,000 plus wolves in Canada, so they say, and that they're allowed to be hunted in all but 2% of Canada. And yet they're not, at this point, able to slow down the increase in the number of wolves. So if you have 5,000 wolves in this state, what are you going to do? This is not like Eastern Oregon where I grew up on a ranch where you could see for miles and, you know, nothing, sagebrush. Here, you see 100 feet. How do you get rid of these wolves? And assuming politically it's acceptable, how do you do it?
Well, reducing a population, I like to imagine landing a plane. You could take a plane from a high altitude and bring it down to land. You could do that very steeply, or you can gradually reduce the population. And the way to do either is going to be through hunting programs, through state management, through hunting programs. So states would use monitoring data. They would set quotas and regulations to achieve those management goals, which would likely be removing a significant number of animals.
Yeah, I hate to keep hopping around, but the time is short. And so, Mr. Williams, there was a suggestion by one of my Democrat colleagues, actually the ranking member on the floor of the House 3 days ago, that a wolf is hardly different than a pet. I actually stood up and said, you obviously don't know the difference between a wolf and a schnauzer. It gave me a chance to use the word schnauzer on the floor of the House. The point, though, is they seem to think that way. That's not true, is it, Mr. Williams? Tell us about, you can avoid too many graphic details, but is a wolf the same when it comes to killing animals as your household pet?
Absolutely not. The wolf is somewhere around 100 pounds. The wolves that we're dealing with, they kill as what they do. They're very good at it. They do not kill their animals and then eat them. They just start eating them, and they keep eating them until they get to something vital, and then the animal dies. It's one of the most horrific deaths you can have. They also pack hunt, or they individually hunt. So if an individual gets beaten by a cow, he'll bring a friend back and they will win eventually. They also traumatize those animals that they leave alive, the rest of the herd, and the production losses in those kinds of situations, those kinds of families is extreme. And I could go on, but in no way is a 110-pound wolf that's a born killer anything close to a pet.
Yeah, I think the phrase I was using was natural-born killer, and people can make fun of that, but it's the truth. And so we're out of time now, and I want to say to everybody here, thank you so much for being here. And also, I've learned that, as all of us have up here, that These hearings are only as good as your ability, our ability to get them out to the rest of the nation. So if you want to share what we did today, then go to naturalresources.house.gov, naturalresources.house.gov, look under hearings, and you'll find the video of this hearing. Share it. And so that the type of testimony that we heard today, although it was wonderful for those of us who are present, it would be more wonderful if a couple million people actually heard about it. So please share it. And I want to thank everybody for being here. I thank the witnesses for their testimony and the members for their questions. The members of the committee may have some additional questions for the witnesses, and we'll ask you to respond to these in writing. Under Committee Rule 3, members of the committee must submit questions to the subcommittee clerk by 5:00 p.m. Eastern on Wednesday, May 8th. The hearing record will be held open for 10 business days for those responses. If there's no further business, without objection, the subcommittee stands adjourned.